attendee. TinaO here. I'm so glad you're here. I want you to know you're going to laugh. We've been doing these on Zoom up until now, and we're actually for the very first time on Webinar Jam. So you get to see what real life looks like, and I'm so glad you're here. So hold on a sec. I'm going to see if I can screen share and get our screen in today. All right. So I'm just wondering what you see. Let's see, turn off. No, we're on screen share. Okay. Hold on. Let's turn this off. We're here. Excellent. So what you know what I'm curious about? If you can look over to the chat section there, over on the chat section top right, if you can just let us know what you see, that would be great, because I want to make sure that you can actually see our what we've got on screen here for you. So over in the chat section, this is our first time on Webinar Jam. Just let us know what you see. And I'm going to type to you, what do you see as well? And yeah, how you doing, you guys? I so appreciate you being here. What have we got there? Jan is here. Jan, I'm so glad you're here. So appreciate you being here. Meribeth and I are working through Webinar Jam for the first time. And I'm wondering what you can see. What's on your screen? Can you see? Do you see pink? Let us know if you see pink. There's down at there, you'll see a chat section there. You can click chat and just let us know. I'm looking down below to see what you see. Do you, Meribeth? You see pink. Jan sees pink. Okay, Jan, I'm going to open up the PowerPoint. So you probably see something else now. So I'm going to open up something else because I've opened up the wrong thing for you. Publish master session. PowerPoint. And let's get that. Now you're looking at my email inbox, which is so fun. All right, let's see. Master session PDF. And that's not it. That's not it. This is it. This is it as a PDF. Woohoo! We are here. Let's go into, we are here, PDF, and I actually, so funny. Here we go. I actually have it saved somewhere else. Let's go over here. Jan, you're such a trooper for hanging out with us like this. I so appreciate this. PDF master session. Here we go. Aha, yeehaw, we are here. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to this Webinar Jam screen. Meribeth, I'm just wondering, honey, I can't hear you. Okay, but I can't hear you through my ear.
Okay, how about this?
Now I can hear you. Awesome.
And are we hearing Tina? Am I hearing Tina or am I hearing Jan or?
No, you're hearing Tina. You are hearing Tina. Yeah.
And we've got Jan on chat.
We've got Jan on chat. And so in these rooms, babe, I actually can't see the chat, so I'm really going to rely on you for the chat, okay?
Great. Jan can hear Meribeth now as well.
Awesome. Oh, what
We're partially on our way. Jan, thank you so much for bearing with us here.
All right. Now, what I'm not sure about, well, we're not going to record this anyway. I was going to say, let's record it, but I'm like, no, let's not record it. And so, Meribeth, I can't see the chat, but you can see the chat, so that's really great. You can say to me whatever it is that Jan's saying so we can make sure that we've got her involved. I'm just going to close my office door. Jan, I'm just going to let you know that my lovely 7-year-old is going to come bounding up the stairs in like 2 seconds flat, and he may come in the door. He may not. But just hold on 2 secs while I close my door, and we will get rolling. All right, let's begin. So you have a story to tell. And one of the things I love about that is everyone has a book inside of them. We all do, but not everyone really loves the writing process. Some of us do, but we just don't know where to start. This webinar is all about this master session. Just want you to know, Jan, we will move a bit faster because we did lose 20 minutes, and I want to honor your time. So some of the things in your workbook, we are going to we'll skip a couple of them, but we'll give you the instructions, and you can do them from home for sure. Okay. So you have a story to tell. You're here to write your book. Yes, Maribeth?
Tina, Jan says it's great watching our process. This is how Tina and I often work, on the fly, but we get it done. We get the job done, and we want to help you get the job done as well. So
that's so great. Jan, I'm just curious, do you work from home?
I'm not seeing anything, but if it pops up, I'll let you know, Tina.
Okay,
you go,
cool.
Move forward.
Okay, cool. All right. So you're going to be recognized as an expert at the end of this session. You're going to know what that's all about, and we're going to be growing your brand. And I want you to know that we've got you for at least a good 70 minutes. We've got a lot to give you today, and I really want you to enjoy this time and let yourself have this as the master session that it is. Okay? So how to maximize your session today, we want you to turn everything off. Turn everything off in the background, all your email systems, Skype, all that stuff. Turn off your phone and give yourself this time to discover how writing your book is going to help you become the recognized expert that you already are, but you're going to be recognized. Have that workbook in front of you, and if you haven't printed your workbook out, don't worry about it. Just get yourself a piece of paper and a pen. We're kind of roll with it kind of people. So let's talk about this. I want to know why you're here. Jan, down in that chat section, I'm curious, can you let us know what you're here for? What is it that brought you today?
She can't find her phone to turn off, so that should work. Anyhow, yeah, of course. That'll work, absolutely.
That's so fun. Well, when you get there, let us know. Just type when you get there. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. And so we want to know how long as well you've been thinking about writing your book. Tell us about that, because I know most of us are sitting on an idea. And in fact, one of my clients in our first call, she was so great. She said, I feel like I have this thing inside of me and I just need to give birth to it. And so how long have you been thinking about writing your book?
I've got books in me, but I'm a slow typer. Well,
that's okay. We're patient. You're patient with us.
That's been sitting on a ton of ideas. That's awesome. I think, Jan, you and I will get along well because I have more ideas than I can really cope with.
That's where I come in. I'm like the master slotter. We just slot everything in categories. So Jan,
5 years, Jan? Jan says 5 years. 5 years worth of ideas. You've been sitting on this for 5 years. That's a long time.
Oh my gosh. Way to go. My goodness. Well, we're going to get it done. So you're in the right place. You need to know that because we know you have a story to tell. Well, clearly 5 years worth of stories to tell. You're in the right place. We know you want to write your book. That's true, right, Jan? You actually want to write a book?
To place me. Oh, this is Jan from Seychelles, Nia. Tina?
Cool. Oh my gosh, cool. Jan, hello, I love you. I'm so glad it's you that we're on this call with. Oh, this couldn't happen to a better person. I'm so glad that you're here. So I know you want to write a book. You got a zillion things in your head. So you're in the right place, honey, because we know that you want to be recognized as an expert in your field. And what's really interesting, because I know your story, right? I know that you're already recognized as an expert, but I'm gonna guess here that this is actually about being seen, sort of. I call it on Bowen Island. I call it being famous off the rock. Like it's one thing to be
Mhm.
famous on the rock, but we want to be famous off the rock, or just be recognized. Am I on the right track?
Yes, says Jen, but that might be from an earlier comment. So
Okay, that's fine. Okay. So we know you want to grow your brand by,
absolutely, she says.
okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool. By using your unique voice. And Jen, you have a unique voice and a unique perspective. But the reality is, ready for the reality? That there are three reasons why most of us don't write our book or why we hold ourselves back. And so I want you, oh, hold on, go back, Tina. I want you to open up your workbook, and I want you just right now to kind of just listen a little bit, okay? And just whatever on page 3 where it says the three biggest reasons people don't write their book, we're going to tell you what those reasons are. And if anything, just write down anything that comes up for you in those 1, 2, 3 places, okay? So the three reasons that people don't write their book is number 1, they're bloody well self-conscious. That happens a lot. And I know that for me, when I get self-conscious, I'm worried that what I have to say doesn't sound smart enough, or that these things can happen. Frankly, that regular life happens. I'm curious for you, and you don't have to chat about it. Just write down what comes up for you when you think of being self-conscious. What comes up for you, and chat with you if you like.
Yes. Jen says she's struggling a bit with a delay on the chat, which seems to make sense.
Okay, cool, cool.
So
And
when I
Meribeth,
see something interesting that comes up from Jen, I'll let you know and we'll engage.
okay, cool. Meribeth, you had something that you wanted people to know about the way we work with people when there's about self-conscious. I think it's on your notes there.
On my notes of self-conscious, well, I can just tell you that I think almost all of us deal with this, some more than others, but it's that simple thing. People don't like the way they look in pictures, right?
Right. Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't like hearing the sound of their own voice. I don't know, maybe it's that funny thing that happens to us when we turn about 12 or something, and all of a sudden we can't accept ourselves. But I think the writing process, what's amazing about it is if you're going to go through it, you're going to learn to accept yourself
yeah.
and realize how important it is. So I think it's a worthy exercise just in that. Putting
And
your
there,
voice out there validates who
yeah.
you are.
And there was something you said last time, Mary Beth, about letting everybody know that we're here to support them in being them, like in their
Mm-hmm.
truest
Oh
self,
yeah, that's.
right?
I think that was that thing about safety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know whether Jan has attended Live Your Best Story, Tina, if that's how you know
No,
her,
not
but
yet.
it's about creating a safe space. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always say, I'm the person who asks hard questions, and I know Tina asks a different kind of hard question, but that does not mean that they are critical of who you are. It's trying to get more of you out there
Mm-hmm.
and
Another.
more genuine you, right? Because sometimes we hide. We're experts at hiding.
Mm-hmm. So another thing, another reason why we don't write is we get overwhelmed. And Jan, I'm going to just suggest that this is probably right up your alley. It's all about having, a zillion books in our head or a zillion reasons why we can't, or whatever the zillion reasons are, but we can get buried almost by all of those reasons. And Mary Beth was really clear last time when we were going through this. She's like, they need to know that we're going to give them deadlines. Like, we're going to help them out with this overwhelm bit. Like, we're going to
Yeah.
have, right, weekly deadlines and stuff like that.
And I think if Jan says overwhelm is what I'm working on right now, well, I think that's part of it too. I feel like core story and the initial process that Tina goes through, by the time you're done the first step, it's like you focused on something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's narrowing the focus to prevent overwhelm. Now there's lots of opportunity to get overwhelmed again when you delve into research, but we're always going to focus in and focus out and keep you on track.
Yeah.
And provide deadlines.
Yeah, provide deadlines. So here's the big one.
Essential.
This is one of my favorites, especially because we're women on the call. And Meribeth and I do work with men for sure. But one of the biggest stumbling blocks for us in our writing practice or in our writing commitment is permission, and actually giving ourselves permission to live and give and be and share our story, especially from the core. So what about you? I'm wondering for you, just of those three or something else, what has stood out for you as getting in your way to get going?
I think with Jan, we have identified overwhelm, and she says it
Right.
helps to have tiny steps to move forward.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Bite-sized pieces, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, well, let's tell you who each of us are. Now, you know me, Jan, but just for Meribeth and I, we're going to do this for us and because we're still practicing too. So why don't you introduce me, Meribeth?
Well, first of all, Jan says, I've been hiding the fact that I haven't given myself permission. Jan, I hear ya. You know, I feel like I have to fight for permission just to be here right now. You know, there's so many things that I, as a woman, feel obligated, and maybe that's you too. I don't know. I'm not going to make that assumption, but something about I must not overshadow someone else. Ooh, that's a big one, Tina.
That's a big one. It must not overshadow someone else. I don't know if this goes on for you either, Jan, but sometimes the whole expert industry puts a bad taste in my mouth because there's that piece of I don't know if I want to be that big and brash, or I don't know, who am I to think that I know more than that other person, or that I even have a position that's unique to me. And so I think there's that permission piece of saying you do have something inside of you that matters deeply to you, and the world's waiting for it. That's why you have it. All right,
Yeah.
this is who we are. Go ahead,
So,
MB.
Jan, you know a little bit about Tina, and I don't know the context of it, but you see these photos of Tina in her different ways and different lights, and one of my favorites is always the Miss KFC Tina. So what this symbolizes, I don't know if you know the story, but at 16 she went and knocked on the office door of White Spot KFC and said, "Buy my prom dress. I want to be buy my dress. I want to be a beauty queen." And they did it. So here's Tina, who I've always admired as a person who is not afraid to ask, and not afraid of rejection on some level. And I feel like that's really important in who she is right now and her work right now, because it's making those big asks of people to open up and open up themselves so that we can get to the heart of things and focus in, as we've mentioned before.
Beautiful. Thanks, Meribeth. Well, now I get to introduce Meribeth. Meribeth is the editor of The Undercurrent, which is the newspaper here on Bowen Island. She's a journalist. She's traveled all over the world. She's been part of documentary series. She's a writer. Her writing pieces on my blog are the things that kind of blow my blog up. They're because she gets to the heart of the matter. And just as Meribeth says that I ask questions, I feel like Meribeth isn't afraid to say what wants to be said. She always finds a way to say it, but she cuts right to the matter, like right to it. She's also a mom, and what I want you to know about Meribeth as a storyteller and as a story coach, as a writing coach, is that she is here to make you a better writer. That's who she is, and that's what she brings to the table. And why that matters to you is we've got this really unique blend, the two of us. Sometimes Meribeth says I'm like the therapist between us. Right? And the good cop, bad cop. I'd be good cop, she'd be bad cop, or I'd be process lady, and she'd be like, get to the heart of it, lady. And so we've got this beautiful blend where we can hang in and process with you, because we know, well, first off, you need to know that both of us recognize that writing is a very personal thing, and it takes a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and we're adapters, and we bring sort of a right brain, left brain approach to this. So we want you to know that we're going to get to your story. So we both know how important a book can be, and we know how hard that it can be to start. And so it's time to take control. So open up that workbook, and I want you to get to page 4 in the workbook. And now we're going to deal with those like 3 things that stop you. We're going to like bust it wide open. Let's deal with self-conscious, okay? Let's deal with that. So on page 4, hold on a sec. On page 4, we're going to work through these 3 things. And one of the things we want to make sure of is that in your session on page 4, we're going to do this writing exercise. We're asking you to listen like a writer. We're asking you to answer like an author, and we're asking you to write today like you care. So when we say listen like a writer, we're saying be curious. When we're saying answer like an author, we're saying trust yourself. And we want you to put our strategies in action. So let's go on to page 4 in the workbook. Sorry about that. Page 4 in the workbook. Number 1, self-conscious. This is a timed writing exercise. So grab that pen and set a timer for 3 minutes. I've got my timer here. I'm looking too. And what I want you to do is I want you to finish the sentence at the bottom. It says, what I tell myself about being a writer and an author is blank, but the truth is blank. So for an example, you might have a judgment or something that gets in your way, and what you tell yourself about being a writer is, you have to be prolific, but the truth is, I just have to start somewhere. See where I'm going? So I'm going to give you a timer. I'm going to set the timer. Here are the rules. Do not cross out. Keep writing. Even if you fill a page with blah, 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 or lyrics to happy birthday, just keep writing. Something's going to emerge and it's going to surprise you. What I tell myself about being a writer and an author is, but the truth is, and go. 3 minutes. And just breathe and write and breathe. And keep going and write and breathe and breathe and write. I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. A little less than 3 minutes, but that's all right. Okay, and just wrap that thought up. And now turn the page over to page 5, and let's deal with overwhelm. This one's for you, Jen. So here's what I want you to do. Meribeth often talks about just starting somewhere. We're not going to do this one in full, but we'll explain it, okay? I want you tonight to write a paragraph about why you want to write this book, and do it before you go to sleep tonight. And here's the game changer. We want you to read that paragraph to someone. Just breathe, because you're an author and remember your story matters. So give yourself permission. I know we're doing overwhelm, but this is about starting somewhere. Write one paragraph about why you want to write this book. Think of it as maybe it's the paragraph, one of the first paragraphs in your introduction. Maybe this is in the introduction of your book. My gosh, my dog's losing it. Sorry, guys. All right, turn the page over to page 6. And let's deal with permission. This is my favorite one. We are going to do this one right now. We're going to have some fun with this. Do you ever remember bringing a handwritten note to your teacher or getting one of your friends to write one, right? Or in grade 11 or whatever, so you can get it to class? Well, you're going to write your own writing permission slip. And it sounds a little something like this. Dear Jan, right? Or for mine. Dear Tina, Tina O is excused from doing the dishes, folding laundry, and thinking, guilting, and shoulding herself about work today for a minimum of 4 hours. Specific, right? 4 hours, because she is an author and her book needs her more than her chores do. Tina O is on a mission to bring her story to the world, and I give her full permission to do that today and every Saturday until her book is finished. And then I give her permission to celebrate like the rock star she is. So the key point in this for you, Jan, is to include your usual distractions. Minor chores. What are your usual distractions? How does it make you feel? And what are you trading those distractions for? Be specific. Because the only way to do this right is to give yourself permission. So include those usual distractions. They're going to give you 2 minutes just to play with that and start. I'm going to go deal with my dog. Be right back. All right, we are Muttley free. Permission. I know you're just starting, but just wrap up that thought. You make a note of something you thought of but didn't have quite enough time to get to. And let's move on. All right. Top 3 reasons that you want to write your book, and this is where I'm going to tell you. You know you're listening and thinking. I'm going to tell you the top 3 reasons we know you want to write your book.
Why
And
you
they're all,
should write your book. Why
yeah,
you must.
you must write your book. Is number 1, and it's about efficiency, is that your book is an employee that makes you money by carrying your story. Now, I know in your workbook, we don't have a page for this. This came after. We actually had this idea. So I want you to put it just on the back of page 6. Feel free to make notes here. Your book becomes an employee that makes you money while you're sleeping, which sounds kind of funny, but it does. The only reason why I call them like your stories are like they're message employees, and they carry your word out into the world. So number 1, your book gives you an employee. Number two, your book gives you credibility, confidence, and clarity. And the interesting thing about that is we think that that's about clarity to the world, and it is, but it's actually internal clarity. And this all happens in Core Story. When you write your book, it's amazing the confidence that comes into you because you showed up and did it. And the credibility that it gives the world, but more importantly, to you. Number three, it's a comprehensive starting place for your residual income. And let's talk about residual income. I have built my life, my whole career around residual income. And the beauty about having residual income is it allows you to do your life first before you do your work. When you are building your book, what you're actually doing is in your book, guess what? Your talk shows up in there. Now, in the published program, you're going to, in phase one, you're going to get started in what we call the engine room of your book, that sort of engine chapter of your book. And that's probably where your talk is also going to spring out of. Also in your book, you're going to discover the bullet points of your online program. That kind of shows up in your chapter headings. Also in your book, all of your social media marketing, your ads, your quotes, your blogs, all of your own language of who you are and how you share your message with the world happens when you write your book. So the top 3 reasons you want to write your book: it builds your residual income by giving you an employee, by giving you credibility, and it's a comprehensive starting point for the living that I know that you want to make. So let's take a look at what it takes, the real deal of what it takes to be an author. It's all about these key things that we have to do in order to get it done. I'm curious to you, when I call you an author, what does that mean to you? Jan, if I said, I'd like you to meet Jan. Jan's an author. Da-da-da-da. What does it mean for you? Anything coming up?
Well, we might be facing a bit of the
Oh yeah, right. The
chat
time.
delay, but Jan also might be thinking, which is absolutely fine.
So just let us know, Jan, as it comes, and we're just going to keep going, darling, okay? So on page 7.
Oh, wait. What this makes Jan anxious because I think I haven't got what it takes.
Oh, honey, you are in such the right place. Oh, my heavens.
You got what it takes, Jan. You do.
You totally do. I always say to people that people don't show up by accident, right? Like we think there are people out there called looky-loos, but looky-loos don't invest an hour or 90 minutes of their life into something. You did. So I'm telling you that you can only see in others that which you have in yourself. So you have an author inside of you. We know this for sure.
And Jan knows it too. She says, I have a corollary that I know I do. I just haven't followed through as much as I want.
Aw, well, here we go. You ready? So on
this
page
is follow
7,
through.
This is follow through. On page 7, we're going to get real. And there's 4 must-dos to be a published-ready author. And Meribeth and I are just going to kind of riff on them a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. And I want you to listen like a writer. And I want you to fill in. We've got some questions here, 1 through 3, that you can just fill in what speaks to you. So number 1, being an author is about writing. You're going to write. You're not going to think about writing. You're actually going to write. You're not going to plan to write. You're going to write. You're not going to get organized to write. You're going to write. You're not going to buy the right pens to write. You're just going to write. Writing is the difference between being a writer and being an author. You actually write. You're also going to research. You're going to add layers into your book. You're going to ask questions. You're going to know more than just what you think you know. What I mean by that is, I know for me, when I just want to be a writer, I just want to get the stuff that's in my head out onto the page. But when I want to be an author, I want to get the stuff that's out of my head onto the page, informed by what I have learned.
It has just occurred to me, Tina, that this is one of the points that really differentiates you and I. Mm-hmm. And I think we knew this already, but I understand why it is now.
What's that?
You have an expertise and you want to get those things out there and into the world and on paper.
Yeah.
But for me, as a journalist, every day I'm encountering something I don't know and I want to tackle something I don't know. Therefore, my life is research. So, but I think given, us two putting those things together, that's why it works yet again.
Oh, that's so cool because you bring the piece of how to ask questions research wise, right? Like how to find the story. And
And where
I
to
bring,
look.
yeah, yeah, so good. All right, read. You're also going to read because if you're not reading, you are writing in a vacuum. Sometimes we just need healthy procrastination. Sometimes we're stuck, and the best thing to do when you're stuck is go to the library. If you go to a bookstore, go look at other people's chapter headings. You are going to read. You are going to stay inspired, and you're going to edit. And Mary Beth has a great thing for me. She's given me these notes before. She's often said to me, "Don't hide behind your language. Stop hiding behind your language." I'll say things like blah blah blah. Like I know that sounds ridiculous, but I went to the store today. You know what I'm saying? Blah blah blah. And what I'm really doing is hiding from my story. You're also going to polish. So you're going to write and then research and rewrite. Write, research, ask a question, learn something, rewrite. Because you're going to keep, go ahead, Meribeth, I can hear your thought. Yeah.
I think also the beauty of editing is you've written it once and it's yours, but the more you edit it and go over it and refine it, the more the words, the thoughts are yours, the more you own it.
Beautiful. Right. And that's about positioning yourself as an expert. Awesome. And a great story, I totally stole this from my son. A great story is like a good sandwich. It doesn't have any wet lettuce. And that comes from my son's English teacher. And I love that because really, when you bite into a sandwich that has wet lettuce, you're like, "Bleh." You don't need any of that yucky filler. You just need a good sandwich. So, what is an author? Well, an author believes in the story enough to see it through to completion. You go through all the steps.
Oh, Jen says it's she likes the editing process. The first draft is what gets her. But,
Oh, you got to.
I think that's what we're here for. We're here to help you through the hard bits and to work with you on the parts that you like too. So,
Well, this is good because this asks this next question, Jan. I'm curious what you need to get your book written.
so
What?
I think, Jen, is it true what you need is help getting started, help getting rolling? That's my interpretation of what we've heard from you so far. Daily writing and editing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is that also about feeling what's the word, like getting some momentum with the daily writing and editing? Feeling like you're getting somewhere?
Or is this a matter of structure? Do you feel like you need some structure? The book is half written. Awesome.
Right. Right. So then it is probably structure and then getting through that halfway point, which for a lot of people is where they get stuck because they're past that inspiration place and now they're
Yeah.
into the real author place. They're moving from writer to author. Cool.
Momentum is huge, says Jan. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you feel like you get stuck and then you don't know how to get out of it? Do you feel like you need to be pointed in certain directions? I'm just really curious to hear this, seeing as we have you one on one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, we can move on, and I'm sure we'll hear from Jan in a moment. Oh, I'm at the organizing all the little bits of inspiration into a more cohesive whole. So yeah, that's a structure issue, and I think that's pretty normal.
It's a
And
system,
that's why we
right?
have a system to build the framework of a book.
So let's go into that. So there are five pillars of the published system, and the first one is your core story. Now, all of these pillars are what holds your book up. It's what holds your story up. It's what gets you through those stuck places. And the first pillar is core story. So the core story on page 8, which I know, Jan, you and I have done a little bit of core story work together in conversation. Just flip over to page 8, and we're going to go into these a little bit more in depth later. But your core story communicates your innate who, as in who you are, no matter what. It also communicates your profound what, not like what you serve, but what you profoundly serve. It gives you your specific when people need your book. It tells your impactful where, what demographic do you impact, and your urgent why. And we have some examples about this as well, which we'll show you in a sec. In phase 1, you're going to create, this is on page 8 here, in phase 1 it says, I will create my one-page document, and you will write 5,000 words. That one-page document is all about the spine of your story. It's going to help you, Jan, move from that halfway point and see the beginning, middle, end of where you're going. It's sometimes they say, sometimes you tell the story, sometimes the story tells you, but at the end of the day, what we're really doing is serving a story. This is the spine that we are serving. This is the story that you're showing up for. And the 5,000 words is about that engine of the engine chapter for you. So we have a little exercise for you real quick. The double-edged sword of your core story, because your core story has a double-edged sword. One side is your heart of your story. The other side is your trap of your story. In the heart of your story, this is what you give in your story. This is what brought you to the table in the first place. So Jan, in your story, what are you giving? What are you wanting to give the world in your book? And while you're writing, and while we're waiting for the time lapse, the trap is what we avoid. It's what we assume the world's just going to figure out because what we're giving is so strong. What's your book about? What are you giving the world? Is it inspiration? And if it's inspiration, what kind of inspiration? Is it information about food choices, gut health? What are you giving the world?
It's easier than you think to improve health and vitality, and here's how you can do it.
Nice. So you're
That's a
giving,
good give.
yeah, you're giving the world ease. Is that right? Like I know you're giving them information, but what you're really giving them is ease. You're saying, yes, you can. Awesome. I get that. Cool. So just something to think about, Jan. I wonder what your trap is in your book. What do you assume everyone's going to understand by your title and your awesome content that maybe you're overlooking? What's the trap? You don't have to tell us. Just know that there is one. And in our core story session, we're going to figure that out. So good writing, turn your page over to page 9. Good writing has 5 ingredients. We've given you a space to write down 3. And here are the ingredients. Number 1, it's real. Good writing is real. It's like real has a vibration. When you read something that comes from somebody's core, you can feel it. You're like, oh yeah, I'm in this person's book. So it's real. It has a clear voice. Clear as in you can't hear a whole audience talking. We hear you talking, the author speaking, or the voice of the character. It's compelling. We want to turn the page. We want to, at the end of the first chapter, we want to get to the next chapter. At the end of the 16th chapter, we still want to get to the 17th chapter. And what I find fascinating about this is one of the traps that people who are writing information-based books, like yours, Jan, which is I'm going to show you how easy it is and here's how, it still needs to be compelling. We still need to finish chapter 4 and want to read chapter 5. And it's critical when putting your book out there that your book doesn't become that how-to book that sits on the shelf that, oh yeah, when I remember, I'll pick it up. When it's compelling, we actually transform. We want your book to be a piece of transformation for us. We also want your book, number 4, to be bulletproof, as in you stand by it. You have researched it so much, it's bulletproof for you. And lastly, it communicates. Number 5. I don't want you to have a book with great words in the middle. I want you to have a book that with great words that land, that actually create change in somebody's life. Those are 5 ingredients of good writing. I'm curious what 3 really speaks to you. And to help us with that, I want you to think about 5 great books that you've read. And why did you love them? And we're going to give you 2 minutes just to write down 5 great books that you have loved in your life and why you loved them. And go. I sometimes think of great books I love, even though I don't even know I love them, but I reference them a lot. In my heart, I may not think of them as loving them, but I reference them a lot, which means I take them off the shelf. That's one of my whys, because I take it off the shelf. Another why for me is I'm inspired. Makes me believe. What are some of yours? Just write and breathe and breathe and write.
Names are escaping me right now, but Liz Gilbert, Magic, Brene
Yeah.
Brown, Rising Strong.
Nice.
Nice.
Ooh, I haven't read Rising Strong. I'm gonna have to read that. I have read Big Magic. That's one of mine that I reference a lot too. Awesome. Okay, so another pillar is a through line. You need to have a through line. This is your structure. You don't get to skimp out on ingredients. We need to know what the rules are in order to break them. Think Quentin Tarantino. And I only put that out there. I'm not sure how your book is coming, but sometimes artists kind of push back and against structure. They want the structure to keep them in place, but they want to chuck it out the window because their book is different. Your book requires structure in it, and part of that is the through line. Now, Quentin Tarantino is a great example because his stuff always looks like where the heck are you even going? But at the end of the film or of his screenplay, he has all the pieces of the structure there. Through line is pivotal. Also, one of our pillars is we're helping you write for impact. Your book has to matter to you more than it matters to the world, or you're not going to write it. Now, it needs to matter to the world, of course, because otherwise, what's the point? But it needs to matter enough to you that when you get stuck, you're going to keep going. So I'm curious if you're willing to commit to writing that book until it does matter to you like that. And on page 10 in your workbook, we have a proclamation that I want you to write to yourself later tonight. And it goes like this. I will not die with my story still inside me. I will live a fuller life by telling my story and sharing it with the world. My life will be richer for writing my story because why? Now, I know that you've got an information-based book, Jan, but I'm curious. You have to tell us now. Go, write this tonight. Why will your life be richer for writing your story? And why will the world be richer when they read it? And our last pillar is polish. A polished manuscript contains, you can write this down on page 10, no junk, no filler. You'll love this, Jan. No additives and preservatives. And it does not cut corners. Because when you care, someone else will care too. And write for that person. When you care, or when I care, someone else cares too. Write for that person. So how do we move you? We've gone over a bunch of stuff already, and there's still more to come. We're about 2/3 of the way, so we're right on time. How are we helping you move from writer to author, just based on what you've heard so far? What's going to move you from writer to author? and just put it in the chat there. We've gone over a couple of things. What comes up for you? What's going to move you from writer to author?
By the way, Tina, Jen has mentioned that her book is already quite structured because of the recipes included. But
Nice.
she's a random abstract artist type. So that sounds to me like a great combination in terms of, I don't think I'm going to get bored reading Jan's book, and that's a good thing.
And you know what's kind of cool about that too? There is a lot. You could even take the structure thing about the random artist. Like their structure, you can make random look like structure because there's a lot of recipe books out there. Who cares? And I'm not saying that your book doesn't matter. Who cares? I'm saying what's going to make your book matter. I remember. Do you remember when Moosewood first came out? Like whenever that was, a zillion years ago now. What they did, it was a recipe book. I mean, it is a recipe book, but why people cared is I think it was like one of the first recipe books that was actually printed where it looked like it was in handwriting, and it probably was the handwriting of the author. So what if we could bring that random artist into the structure of your book? So when we open your book, we don't see recipe book, we see artist with recipes.
Mm-hmm.
That's your book. Any thoughts here on moving you from writer to author, Jan? Anything coming through, Maribeth?
Jan says structuring in more ways than one, not just my time, but also thinking about how I'm writing.
Ah, nice. How I'm writing. Yeah.
Love artists with recipes. Yes, I love artists with recipes as well.
Cool. Awesome. Great. Okay, so there's 3 phases of writing, certainly in Publish, and we're going to go through why they matter. So the first thing we're going to do is your duh statement. So phase 1 we talked about is going to just go on to page 11. I like to stick to the workbook. I'm kind of oddly artistically but structured like that. Phase 1 is core story, and every book has a core impact statement. And getting to that core impact statement, we're looking for your duh statement. And by duh, I mean people go, when you say, oh, I've got this book and it's about this. They go, well, duh, because it's so clear, right? So your duh statement is like this. It answers these blanks. It's a book about blank because blank happened. So I learned blank, and my life has changed now because I understand blank. You need to fill in those 4 blanks. Not right now, but I'll give you an example of mine. It's a book about, my book's called You Matter, Identifying Your Core Story. It's a book about mattering because cancer happened to me and I learned that I live in a body. And my life changed now that I understand that all I am is matter. And that means I matter too. Now, I wouldn't pitch that. I would stand across from somebody and pitch that if I met them in an airport. But it creates my own duh as well, right? At the end of the book, I need to be able to read this duh statement and go, did I deliver? Or did it turn into something else? And if it's turned into something else, because sometimes that happens, is there a new duh statement? But if you can't find a duh statement, then we've missed it and we need to go back. So let's talk about free. And Jan, you and I think, have talked about this in our core story session. But turning points in your book are also things that we got for free. So there are the things that we got for free as in we came into the world with them. I come in with a happy disposition, you come in with a desire to serve people, you come in with an artistic way of seeing the world. We got all that stuff for free, but there's also life moments that we got for free that are often hard. They're often our challenges, and we don't think about them as free. We think about, oh, we had to pay for that one. But the truth is, I didn't sign up for the cancer course. Like, I got that for free, right? I didn't sign up for being adopted. I got that for free. Now, if you track back to my book about mattering, it makes sense that I was adopted now. It makes sense that I had cancer. What are some of your turning points? You don't have to share them with us. This is personal. We can do this together when you decide to write your book. But think about just for you, not write your book, finish your book, Jan, but what did you get for free that you're going to draw on to really bring the core of your story into what isn't just a recipe book anymore. It's something else.
Jen got migraines.
You got migraines. Ooh. You didn't sign up for that course, but you got that one, didn't you? Wow, that's right. So we want to make sure that somewhere in your book, that's in the introduction, or like, and I'm just playing here, you could even pull your migraine story or other things connected to the migraine story through the book and bring in that random artist piece. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just so many things we can play with, right? So we have a question for you, and it's all about the dare being in the details. And certainly for you, Jan, I'm going to suggest, as someone who knows what you know, what you know, what you know. Like, I know you know your subject inside and out. So our question for you is, what what do you know so well that it's boring, that you're willing to look at it and get interested about it again? And one of the ways you can do this, the question is, think about a place that you know. This is the example, but you can use it in your book. Just change the context. But like Mary Beth has a beach that she lives by, Crayola Beach, and she knows that beach inside and out. But she could go to that beach and say, what have I not seen yet? What have I not seen today? What's it like when it rains here? What's it like when there's 50 people here versus when there's 3 people here? If you apply that to your book, that you know, that you know, that you know, that you know, what don't you know yet? What is so interesting about your subject matter that you know it so well it's boring? What is it? What's interesting to you? You don't have to tell us, but I want you to bring, that's part of core story too. Another piece of your book is, and layering in the principles of good writing and all of that, is the power of a great interview. We're going to be looking at that for sure. And Mary Beth, can you, because you love interviews, why don't you tell us a little bit about what interviewing does, what it teaches you, and how it can inform your book?
Well, I think maybe, I don't know if everyone has done an interview before, or even they would see it naturally as a part of their book or something that would move them forward. But I personally would take any opportunity you have, take the fact that you're writing a book to do an interview, because I can guarantee it's going to open up new doors and help you see things in totally new ways. And I think what that comes down to is we have people in our lives who we know, we love, we admire, we've heard their stories 1,000 times, and they have an impact on us. But when we hear their stories in passing, or when they're just generally telling them to us, we're missing out on some things, because we're not, in a way, being the interview is taking the driver's seat in their story and helping that person to open up, and they'll even discover new things. I just think you're going to learn so much, and it's going to personalize things. It's going to make things more colorful, and just open new worlds for you. And Jan says, would interviewing the doc who is going to do the intro whenever I finish? Sure, why not? I mean, I don't know what your relationship is to this doctor, and what you know about, I don't know about him and how it relates to your book, but I would run with your gut on that.
Yeah.
What is his story? What does he know? Because I bet she is a person who's really, really passionate and has a lot to share. And if you just create that time and space to listen and learn and follow the lead, but then at the same time, ask questions to lead down other roads that you're interested in, I just think that it's invaluable, and you're going to be really surprised and excited as well.
And one of the authors I love that I know does a zillion interviews is Malcolm Gladwell. Like, every one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, he's interviewed, a gazillion people before he even picked up the pen to write. And I think, Jan, like, some interviews for you would be, again, going back to this place of the dares and the details. What are the areas and the places that you think you know what you know, but you could interview someone that might bring in some more layers and give you some inspiration and ahas into what you want to write next? in that in your book. And then I also think it's really valid to be interviewing people that can add like other experts, like where you can quote other people in your book. I talked to so and so, and I had I spent 3 days on this trip with la la la, and we got into this conversation about blah, 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 and this is what came out of it. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
a really beautiful way, right, Mary Beth, to kind of flesh out
It's
your book.
about, I've said to Tina before, I want people who go through this process with us to be able to see their subject matter from every possible angle, to know it inside out and backwards. And I think that this is part of it. Your interviews, the people you interview, are going to help you see the subject in new ways, and to see things that are hidden to you.
Cool. Awesome. Whew. Love that. I learned something there. Okay, we're going to go on to the next one. Before we do that, just onto workbook page 12, just to fill in the blanks. Phase 2 of publish at the top of workbook 12, page 12, is phase 2 is create. Now, in create, just so you know, we're doing a heck of a lot of writing in phase 2, and I actually think your ebook is going to arrive out of phase 2. We haven't quite said that yet, but it's just going to happen anyway, so I think we should just call it like it is. Let's get that ebook up and out. Now, even though we're starting in core story, just so you know, phase 2 is about create, where you're going to create your published package and write 15,000 words, and the dares and the details, which we've done already. Phase 3 of
Oh, wait.
publish.
Jen wants to know, what about the art of interview questions? Is there a resource? Well,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
your resource.
Page 13 in your workbook, too. You can take a look there.
Oh, is that page 13?
Page 13. Yeah. And because I think
Oh,
we,
yeah. So we've got this little exercise set up.
yeah. And it was about asking questions that don't end in yes or no. That's like your first resource, is don't ask questions that end in yes or no. Ask questions that lead people to tell us a story. Hey, Mary Beth?
That's right. Yeah, I think the yes or no is a big one. It's open-ended. Do your research so you know what they're all about beforehand. List as many questions as you can that you want to ask them. You won't ask them all of those, but maybe narrow it down to 6, but then you have those other million in your back pocket. And I think that's just a start. I have a lot more to say in that, and for me, that's a whole segment of my phase 2 course. So
I love that. And I love the idea of having questions in your back pocket. So on page 13, a great interview will open doors and blow your mind. And so we have an exercise for you to do to set up an interview with someone, and research their story, and practice asking those questions that don't end in yes or no. So tonight, we want you to choose someone that you're going to be interviewing. And so I am interviewing Mark Gatchell. I don't even know who that is. It's a name I made up, because I'm interested in their perspective about whatever. And some questions that you're going to ask are, okay, so now this is cool. This is about marketing is real. Oh, no, we're not there yet. Where's marketing is real? Okay, so now we're back to core story. This is about wrapping it up, letting you know specifically what happens in phase 1. I want you to look at these 6 books that are mega books, right? You bump into 10 people, and at least 7 of those 10 will have read them, know them, or have referred people to them. And here's why. Innate Who, let's look at that. Liz Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love. When you read her book, sure, all 6 of those core story pieces are in there. Innate Who, Profound What, Specific When, la la la, Who, What, When, Where, Why, and How. Of course, they're all in there, but it leads with who. When you read that, you're like, man, I know this woman. I know this woman. You feel like she lives in your house with you. You feel like you're drinking a bottle of wine with her and listening to her life story. It leads with innate who. Jack Canfield leads with profound what? What? Success. He talks about the success principles. Now, he happened to be one of the first ones to cut through the noise on the word success, but he calls it success principles. So I am buying this book because of that profound what. I actually have it on my shelf. Also, when you are a badass. I don't know if you've read Jen Sincero's book. This book, although it has a very colorful voice to it, and it came at a breakthrough times in her life, the when that people pick this book up, they buy it because they buy it when they don't feel like they're a badass anymore. That book leads with the specific when. Impactful where, writing down the bones. That's Natalie Goldberg's. If you don't have that, pick it up. It's one of those, every writer's got to have it on their, every author, frankly, should have it on their shelf. Impactful where is where, what demographic does it impact the most? Who are you selling to? Your book needs to know who it's selling to. Compelling how, Byron Katie, very simple, 4 steps in that book, right? That's it. You're not going to read halfway and only do step 1 and 2. No, no, no. You're going to read the whole thing. It has a compelling how. The title doesn't. Loving what is? Who cares? Nobody cares about that until they've read the compelling how. Then they buy the book. In fact, most people don't say, hey, have you read Loving What Is? They say, have you read Byron Katie? And the compelling how is implied. Interesting, right? Urgent why, Gloria Steinem, Revolution from Within. Hello, does it get more urgent than that? She's calling for a revolution. Urgent why. You're going to pick that book up when you need a revolution from within, not a transformation from within, which is nice. How many of those transformation books do we have on our shelf? Probably a gazillion. But how many revolution from within books do we have? 1. Gloria Steinem's. Core story is all about this, which leads us into marketing, believe it or not, because marketing is real. Marketing is specific. Marketing is about setting you up in the marketplace so people can see and hear you from space. Getting your book written is the most efficient way to do all of your marketing messaging all at once. It's actually where overwhelm works for you instead of holding you back. You now have tons of content for your marketing. You're going to write your book. You're going to find your language. You're going to find your quotables. Like my whole thing is sometimes you tell the story, sometimes the story tells you. That's my quote. Not because I got clever and came up with it, because I was writing and it fell out of me. You're going to find your chapter headings. You're going to find your talking points, your blogs. It all happens here. You're going to fill a year's worth of blogging in your book. Like Jan's, yours might be, you might have like 10 of Jan's favorite ingredients. There's 10 blog posts right there. In your book, those might be little tiny paragraphs, but those little tiny paragraphs on your blog post flesh out a little bit. You might have 3 cooking practices or non-cooking, because I think yours is probably a fermentation book, non-cooking practices, right? Again, you now have 3 blog posts. You might have 10 blog posts on migraines, and all of that is in the book. Marketing is real. This is about how you set yourself up as an expert, and not just an expert because you've got a nice suit jacket on, but because you have so much, you've done the work, and people can hear it and feel it and know it in your core story. And that's also about your integrity. And the integrity is about, oh, hold on, what page am I on? I did this, page 14. Sorry, I'm getting excited. So we've done the core impact about Eat, Pray, Love and all of that. So this is about integrity. So phase 2 is the difference. This is on page 15. Phase 2 is the difference maker because it's the building blocks of your story's integrity. And it's the beginning of taking charge of your marketing message. Because writing a book that you care about is like welcoming a family member to the table. That's integrity. How and what you feed that story is a reflection on how much you're willing to care, to nurture, and to respect that story, your book, your integrity. Marketing is real, and trust marketing is built on 3 C's, and that's clear communication, confidence in the product, that's what your book is, and caring for your audience. And then never, as in never, ever, ever sacrificing one of your C's. This is where Meribeth and I come in. We're all about making sure kind of like your recipe for your integrity. What's your clear communication? What's your confidence in the product? What are you caring about? And we're going to make sure we keep you on the straight and narrow, and that you don't fall into the places where we're like, oh, I need to write more. I need to fill in here. No, no, no. Let's come back to your 3 C's. Okay? I want you at the bottom of page 15 where it says My Marketing Proclamation. to remember this, that selling isn't slimy and marketing isn't make-believe. You can be yourself and sell your book to a mass audience. Jan, I'm totally speaking directly to your heart because your core impact is what cuts through the noise, and that's all about your integrity. That's your impact. In fact, we should call those the two eyes of Publish. Hey, Mary Beth, impact and integrity. Impact and integrity,
Totally.
right? And your core story is what's going to establish you as an expert. And the word establish, it doesn't say position, although that happens. It says establish. It's like we don't just put your boots into the position place, we fill them. We fill your expert shoes. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to tell it by you, your way. Your way. Again, Jan, for you, that's the artist with the recipes. We meet your recipes through you as an artist. Let's go into a little Q&A. We are going to tell you about the pricing of the program and all of that stuff, but I'm just curious, what questions might you have, if any?
Jan says, cool.
Awesome. Q&A. She's like, oh, I was so in it. I don't even know what to ask now. Some people have asked, okay, are we publishing your book? No, we're going from concept to publish ready. And there's a whole piece around what it takes to be publish ready. And that all happens in phase 2. And then, of course, phase 3 being author in residence. And I just want to look at author in residence for a sec because you're halfway through your book already, Jan. You probably have questions about this.
She says her brain is so full she can't articulate.
Okay, cool. So why don't we just riff a little bit, maybe, Mary Beth?
Yeah. And we've got about 6 minutes here, Tina.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll finish up. So there is just because in Jan's specific situation, she's half done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for her, my recommendation would be let's find that engine room of a chapter. Let's articulate that core story and know that her author in residence, while author in residence is 8 months long, hers might only be 3. I mean, who knows? But we're going to go at the speed of her story. Yeah?
For sure. And I think...
Yeah, go ahead.
She's written all this, she's written a lot out, and I really like, Tina always says, I barf it out. And then when I'm working with Tina, she's barfing it out and I'm sitting there figuring out how she can structure it. And I think that when you're doing the exercises with us, that's going to create the structure for your book, and it's going to take shape. The puzzle pieces are going to start to fit. Mm-hmm. And then, when you hop into phase 3, that might come down to polishing.
Yeah.
Or you might see that, okay, I've got some more work to do in this place, in this place, in this place. But you'll have a good idea by then about where you're going, and hopefully a lot more confidence.
Yeah. And I'm going to jump out on a limb here. I think if you've probably done Suzanne Doyle Ingram's awesome work of the structuring, because I know she's on the coast. And so I want you to think that, and she does an amazing job of structure. And when you said, I've got the structure, it totally makes sense to me. What this program is going to bring to you is the you part into that structure. It's the that vibrational energy almost of I can feel her when I read this. I can't not read this book. I am so committed to Jan's book because they love you. It's like the difference between picking up a Nigella Lawson book and picking up a Canadian Living magazine. Canadian Living magazine has a structure and the recipe section has a structure, but I only buy it because it's fun to buy it at Christmas time. But I'm like married to Nigella Lawson. Because I love the way that she feels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think for me that comes through your process. Are you having fun with this? Because we want you to have fun with it. And we're going to do our damnedest to make sure that this process becomes something that actually lights your fire.
Yeah, lights your fire. I like it. So this is why you would hire us. But I think why I think you've already experienced us a little bit. So what do you do now that you're ready? what happens next? What do we actually have for you? What are we offering you? So number one, we actually just want you to apply to publish today. And Mary Beth, I'm not sure if you can find that link,
I
but if
can
you,
do that. I've got it.
oh,
I'm
you
just
do,
sending
cool.
it over to Jan right now.
Okay. So we want you to apply to publish no matter what, whether you think you need us or don't need us. And the reason why is after you apply, no, well, number one, the application is going to drive you a bit further into your book as well. But two, you're going to get another core story. I know you've had one with me, but this is going to be specific to your book. Another core story session with me about your book. And then should publish be the right program that we all agree, yep, this is where you need to be. The phase one core story, which is 4 weeks long, happens online. We have a private Facebook group. We have videos. We also have some one-on-one, like person to person, like actually on the phone with us. And the pricing of that is $297. And we have both an April and a May intake. And I believe we're starting in late May and then beginning of May. What am I talking about? Late April and late May. So that's how that works. So we want you to apply to publish today, Jan, and it's been such a pleasure to spend time with you. I feel like even though I only got to hear your words on the chat piece, it's just you brought such a great energy, and you actually gifted us with your energy when we started because we were like, oh my gosh, I've never used Webinar Jam. Ah! And just hearing you say it was nice to hear your process. Really gifted me with the confidence that I needed to just rock it out and do my best work. So thank
Absolutely. Me too. I feel the same way. Thank you, Jan.
So that concludes our session. Make sure you apply, Honey Bunny. I look forward to seeing it, and we'll book that core story session with you. Have an awesome afternoon. I hope your brain is exploding with all the stuff that you're going to play with tonight, and we'll see you soon. Much love to you.
Bye, Jan.
Bye, Jen. Come on in.